So yeah, for those of you that are jumping on right now, so we've got a great guest today. His name's Andy Peters from Atlanta, Georgia. I'll let him kind of give his whole intro. But I met him probably 6-7 years ago through a mutual friend. He and his wife run a large team, and then they also are he's an operating principal in a couple market centers. So what I like most about him, and what I think we'll get into today is I've actually called on him quite a bit when I moved into the OP role. When we've done anything with our business, call him for advice. He's got a passion for people, like for his people, for his team, his people for his in his market centers, as well as their clients. They taught a class in our market center a couple of years ago called about the 33 touch program and the just the personal touches they do with their database, which is, I would say he can speak better for himself. One of the reasons they've seen so much success. So that being said, Andy, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself in a nutshell, and more than, my vague description.
Well, no, thanks, Joseph. Really an honor to be with you guys. And it's funny, the history and the mutual history that Joseph and I have. And, for me, I'm lucky to be here. My wife got into real estate before me, was Rookie of the Year. And I was managing about 50 people with my family drinking water company at the time. Out of Georgia and Florida, I was on an airplane all the time, pretty much between Atlanta and Orlando and Tampa. And at some point after about 7 years, I really had enough. I was dealing with a less caliber of individual than I really wanted to be surrounding myself with. The type problems I was dealing with were not problems that people with high integrity would find themselves getting into. And I just, it was July 2008, which seemed like a great time to jump into the real estate business. So I joined my wife, and we started. Leslie is her name, and Les is she's an amazing woman at what she does, an amazing leader. She very quickly took over operations for us, and I took over sales, and we started building a team. Thank goodness for market center leadership, a productivity coach, an assistant team leader that really hung on us and said, I believe that you guys are going to be an MREA team. And at that point, I remember those words, and being a team, a husband and wife team selling about 30 units. I thought that was pretty funny. I didn't believe it. And luckily they kept on every year that we would do business planning clinic together. The accountability was strong. And as a result of that, and kind of blindly following the MREA book, because we didn't really know anything better to do, we hit MREA status for the first time in 2013. That was our first year to gross $1 million. And in 2018, we netted $1 million for the first time. And every year since 2013, it's how fast can we hit MREA status? The book has changed our world completely. And as Joseph said, 36 Touch is the backbone of what we do. It represents over 80% of our business coming from our sphere. We believe in client events. That's kind of the one thing that we lean heavily on. That's what our lead generation efforts, surround. And it's fun, we make business fun. And, as a result of our success on the production side, I was presented with an opportunity to take over 3 market centers in Atlanta. Believe it or not, Atlanta, y'all may already know this, but in Atlanta, there's like 20 Keller Williams market centers. It's like, right. It's the most densely populated Keller Williams community I've ever seen, probably in any metro area. And it kills it. Keller Williams has a 22% market share in the Atlanta market. And I'm blessed. I think I have the best market in all of Atlanta. I certainly have the best people. And, my journey over the last 3 years has probably been more like 75% market centers, 25% on the team. And, I know we'll talk a little bit about this in this conversation, but, none of these opportunities would have been possible without growing leaders on the team and feeling comfortable and confident enough to really kind of give them the football. And I think that's probably the biggest mistake that I see, that people get stuck in neutral because they don't have the right leaders. Therefore, they can't take advantage of opportunities. So, my goal is, and kind of, my mantra and certainly our mission statement is surrounding massive opportunities. In fact, you see my sweatshirt. This is like one of those things that we have tattooed on our forehead. And Gary said at one point, he said, massive opportunities are on the other side of fear. And so that one quote kind of changed our world. It created a different conversation around mission and vision and values. Now our mission is we create massive opportunities for others through real estate. We make decisions through that lens. And, that's a little bit about us on the business side.
Yeah. So tell me, flashing back a little bit. So 2008, and just to clarify too, Vince can relate to this. Andy, Vince and I have something in common, is that we all married up, like highly.
Yeah.
Right.
God,
so let's be honest, they're the ones that should be on here.
Yes.
But when you stepped in with Leslie and you guys started running the business, as you grew over the next few years, because that's some pretty rapid growth, right? I mean, you go from 8 to, you said 15 that you did gross.
In 2013 was gross $1 million. 2018 was net $1 million. So it took us 5 years to go from gross to net.
Right. I mean, that's pretty substantial. What would you say that you identified? Go back to think as an individual agent or as a husband and wife team. What were some of the first obstacles you saw or faced, and kind of getting from that way? You said husband and wife team doing 30 transactions to the next level. What are some things you ran into?
When you're husband and wife, like, you love each other, hopefully that's why you're husband and wife. And so
right.
One of you runs into trouble, or you get busy, and the tendency is you want to go save them, right? You want to jump in their business, or, oh, I'll go take that buyer out, or, oh, okay, I'll stuff these mailers for you, whatever. And, we need to feel the pain in our position. The pain is actually what drives us and motivates us to go hire people. And so, that was early on, both of us were in sales. And so my phone was ringing, her phone was ringing, and then we have a child, right? Our oldest son was a toddler. And then shortly thereafter, we had our little girl. So, that was really, really difficult. And there was a moment that I remember where Leslie said, we only need one person's phone ringing. We don't need both people's phones ringing. You're really good at sales, or at least you enjoy it. And I feel like I'm very confident in doing the operation. So that separation of duties and holding it responsible for results. And when you get in a bind, not trying to rob from another resource on the team, but actually using that as the reminder that, oh yeah, I need to hire somebody.
Okay. How do you see that translate? Because, a lot of having 3 market centers, you've got a lot of individual agents that you probably work with. How do you see that translate to an individual agent? What does that experience look like for them if they're wanting to grow?
Yeah. Leslie was on the Pivot Shift Ahead with Kimberman Kitty and Tiffany Fikes actually about an hour ago, and she was talking about this. You might want to go back and watch that, but it really starts with leverage at home. Before you start hiring, leverage is everything. And before you start hiring in your business, you might just need a nanny. You might just need 3-day-a-week childcare. You might need a housekeeper. You might need somebody to cut your grass. All of these things that, we want to do it all and be it all. And sometimes we have a hard time releasing those dollar unproductive activities. Yeah. So for an individual, and I sometimes get criticized, even in my own organization. We've got 1,000 agents between the 3 offices. And, occasionally I'll have an individual agent that'll say, yeah, but Andy, you don't care about individuals. You only care about teams and growing big teams.
Right.
I'm like, well, wait a second. If you're an individual agent, if you go and hire a full-time childcare, I could make a very good case that you just created a team. We all have teams. We all have affiliated partners, vendors that we use. I mean, you better be building a team. I mean, there is no award for like doing this all yourself.
Right.
So the quicker you realize that and gain leverage in every section of your life, the faster, you'll find bigger success.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. That's where you went on that. I feel like, I teach business planning clinic a lot. And normally when you get to the organizational model, you can see those, again, the majority of the room that are individual agents, they're like, oh, here we go again. And it's like, well, wait, it's not always building a massive real estate team, right? Don't discount that. Right. But where can you do it personally? That's awesome. Vince, you want to chime in on that at all?
Yeah. I think the question, like, I go back to the same, like that pyramid, and it has all the the questions in it. So you always start with why, and then you've got what, then you've got how, but the most powerful question is always who, right? And if we can, and I hear Andy ask that question a lot, like as you talk about opportunity and massive opportunity and building massive opportunity for people within your organization, and then talk about the fact that you have 1,000 agents, and then you have your agent team. There's a lot of who's in that, right? And I guess my question would be, how do you continue to create these opportunities for people while also paying attention to what you're trying to create from a team perspective and a market center perspective? How do you prioritize, I guess, is really my question. And then through that prioritization, give opportunity.
Yeah. So it's the CV process, I think making sure you invest time, you cast the widest net you can possibly cast, but you're not going to attract the kind of people you need to push your business forward unless you've got a really big mission. And I use something called forced accountability. One day I'll write a book about it, I think, because I don't have a lot of willpower, and I know that I've got to booby trap things. So what I mean by that is, I first think about, what do I want? And what do I want leads me to, well, how much money do I need to do that? And how much money that I need to do that leads me to how many homes I need to sell. And how many homes I need to sell leads me to how many people do I need. And so really it becomes less about selling houses and more about getting into business with exceptional people. And so once you have that organizational chart for what it is that you want, I mean, that's what your organizational chart represents. It doesn't represent more houses. It doesn't represent more bodies. It actually represents what you personally want as the CEO of your organization. And so, you have to paint a big enough picture for someone. You have to show them clear paths to get more opportunity. And the forced accountability is, first you think it, and then you say it, and then unless you're a sociopath, you do it, right? So I like to surround myself with people and talk big, right? Talk about my goals, talk about where we're going. I talk about where we've come from as a matter of, validation for, hey, like we've been blessed to have a little bit of success in this business. So success leaves clues, right? So come follow me, and let's go get what you want. And I don't take jobs back. I hire great people until they tell me they're not the right person. Gary talks about, you never fire people, you just keep raising the standards until they either make it or they quit. And when you're surrounded by really, really powerful talent. We talk about emerging talent, being perhaps the best type of talent to get into business with. Emerging talent emerges quickly. So you got to be on the lookout for this stuff constantly, right? And a lot of people say, oh, flash in the pan, rookie of the year. Like I'm interested in the rookies of the year. Like I want to know the people that have fast success, and how did they do that? Why did they do that? And what do they want? What's next for them? So how do I figure out the priorities? I strive to put, rock star level, leaders in place. And then I have to get out of the way. I have to give them the football and see what they can do with it. You coach your top people. I coach all the TLs. I have a director of career development. I have a director of technology. Like, I coach all of those people. And that's on the market center side. I've got a director of sales that I coach on the production side. And, you know, I talk a lot in terms of what's their plan. You tell me your plan. You convince me that what you're doing is the right thing to do. I don't tell you what to do. And that's something that we learned from Gary. If you put the right people in place, and, you know, in terms of failure, we've all had our fair share of failure. We come to expect it. Anytime somebody, you know, has some failure in their job, we don't browbeat them. We just go straight to, all right, what did you learn from this?
Right.
How do you take this and get better from it? How are you getting better every single day, every week, every month, every year?
Yeah. With that, I mean, so that kind of is a good segue in there, because, you know, with the hats that you have, I mean, you have many hats, obviously, with different ones. One of the things that's really been a topic of conversation over the last couple of weeks with this group that I'd love to hear from you is, what are the keys for you in managing your time and staying focused on each one so you succeed at all the different roles?
Yeah. I mean, my calendar is my boss.
Okay.
And I put everything in my calendar. I mean, from, you know, my breakfast, what I'm eating for breakfast, what I'm eating for lunch, what am I right now? I'm the chef in the house. So what am I grilling tonight? You know, I look in terms of, again, back to booby trapping, right? If I have to think about what I've got to do next, it's probably, there's a higher priority, a higher percentage chance that it's not going to get done. Just because I'm generally not focused. I'm generally not, you know, I don't have a ton of willpower. I have a big vision. I have a big why, but I get distracted really, really easily. And, you know, that's the key. It's just understanding calendaring, and making sure that the things that you say are important to you actually show up in the calendar. I'm well structured in the sense that, you know, I have all my accountability calls on Monday. I learned, I have a pool. And so in Atlanta, just like Charleston, I mean, probably 6 months out of the year, it's nice weather, right? It's pool weather. And I used to dread my Mondays because I would pack about 11, 12 conference calls all in one day, and they were all over the place. But my pain point was I just wanted to get it all done in one day. And a few years ago, I really thought about that strategy, and I changed everything. I kept everything on Monday, but I started my day with, like I do every day, with prayer and meditation, exercise. And then I would get my coaches. I had 2 coaches that would pour into me and fill my cup up. And then the rest of my day would be full of all of my, you know, leaders in the organization, having coaching calls with them, and have a KW call there, right? The 12 o'clock call, have a regional call at like 1:30. I've got a few things mixed in that are a little bit different than accountability, but I used to really hate that day. And I started dressing kind of like this on Mondays. Like I wear a swimsuit, and I would go on the back porch and I would have headphones, and sometimes I'd dip my feet in the pool. And what that did for me was it just made the process enjoyable. And, you know, I hear so many times, like, you got to get dressed up and you got to do this and that. And I believe that when you're going on appointments. Whenever I've got to make sure that I am the most comfortable with my people, I've got to be the most comfortable too. That's just me. That's my personality.
I love that.
So Mondays is now my favorite day of the week. In fact, I call it Grow Day. It doesn't even show up as Monday on my radar.
Yeah, I saw you had a pretty awesome post about that not long ago. Within the last couple of weeks, you had posted something about that and a picture out by your pool. That's I love that mentality, because I don't know, I might just start doing the same thing because my Mondays are starting to look that way.
You got a boat. You got a boat. You can go do that.
Right. All right. So we're in crazy times, right? We've got everything that's going on. We've got predictions of the market, non-predictions of the market. Everyone's unsettled. What's your conversation now with your agents, or even that you're coaching with agents with their clients on the message that you're giving? How are you communicating to it's honestly, I feel like we're in a weird time because, for instance, in Charleston, the last 2 weeks in a row, we've set the highest pendings ever to have happened in a week in Charleston. So
that crazy.
Yeah. And what scares me a little bit, not to be Debbie Downers, every now and then you hear things like, hey, Charleston's recovered, like that we've made through the pandemic. I don't know that that's actually reality. I do think we've got a lot ahead of us. However, obviously there's a message that you do to balance this. What does that look like from your standpoint when you're talking to your agents and, like I said, clients?
Yeah. So when this all went down, I think everybody's kind of, all right, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
Right.
And as the leader, I think you've got to grab your people, like, by their ears and look at them in the face. If you don't show up and your people can't see your eyes, I mean, it's important for them to hear your words, but it's just as important for them to see your face and see your eyes and, like, hey, we're going to get through this. We're going to be fine. We're going to have to change a few things, but we're going to be fine. So I had, nobody gave me a book on how to be an OP. So it's a little bit like the Wild Wild West. It's kind of like,
it's not out there.
There's no MREA for OP, right?
Right.
So I had been working really hard for the last 3 years to push my 3 market centers together, which are geographically close. And they had always been ran independently, just as the franchise agreement says. Different investment groups, however, I knew that wasn't going to be very efficient for me. So I started early on really pushing all the MCAs together, pushing all the TLs together, right? Pushing each individual staff person together, pushing the ALCs together, and really creating community there amongst that group. And so when it came time to pivot in this, I basically called all the TLs, the directors, all the staff people, and I said, we did a Zoom call like this. And I was like, all right, guys, you all are individual offices. You all have your own culture, and you have different personalities. I want you to throw that out the window right now. For the next however long, we are one group. We will put training all together. We won't have a weekly meeting. We will have a daily meeting, and it'll be every day at 11 o'clock. You'll rotate. The TLs will rotate through who leads it. And you're going to focus on skills. You're going to focus on mindset and skills. And it was amazing to see how these TLs came together and, started bringing in guests from all over the country. And it was just this kind of constant, like, well, I got this one, or I got these 3, and it was just really fun to watch. And that was all part of just, you got great people, let them lead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, my communication was, there's 3 things that are the most important. The first is you got to have a plan. And our plan for the month of March was actually 8 points. There was 8 things that we needed to do. And they were all around, pulling business forward, making sure that we don't lose the current business that we had, right? It was about virtual presentations. It was just about the skills and actions that we needed to do. And part of it was PPP, like, what's the stimulus package look like? Let's make sure that our agents know what that is.
Right.
So it was a mixture of defense and offense.
Okay.
So the first thing is make sure you got a plan. And the second thing is to increase communication. So I was meeting with all of our people every morning. I met with the team at 8:30. I met with the TLs at 8. And every single day, and a lot of times I looked a lot worse than this, but it was a matter of that constant, like, you can see my face, you can see what's going on. Here's what happened yesterday. Here's what's going to happen today. And the third thing is sharing wins. So having a plan, increased communication, and sharing wins, because you couldn't tell people how to feel about what was going on. And the same thing goes for production. Like, we feel the same way about the production team. You can't tell people how to feel. You have to show them. So you really have to kind of hold up examples of, here's the success people are having despite what's going on. Right. You make the decision yourself whether you list your home or go buy a home, but it's obvious there's some pretty awesome stories of people having success right now. And those stories need to be told.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So just to recap, what I love about what you did is one, that community. I like that, how you built it with your leadership team. And that's kind of what we've been looking at doing, like with this group, right? Is how do you build that community? Because I mean, as an OP running market centers, it's almost the same role as when, you and Leslie running the team. I love the communication and the sharing wins. So with that, what are some things that what's some key advice you give speaking to them as agents, those that are on the call, like, and moving forward, what's some words of if you could leave the group with one piece of advice, maybe two, what would it be?
We're winning right now. I mean, in the last 75 days, our team has put 70 homes under contract. And that is a direct result of us having a plan. On the production side, we created a COVID-19 seller protection plan, which is basically our listing presentation with one page added for what we do for COVID-19.
Right.
Same thing on the buyer side, right? Is if most people, if you look at a disc profile, if you have a higher percentage of S personalities, that means they don't want to be the guinea pig. They want to do business with somebody that has a plan. They want to hear about some other people that have done it before. And so we got that at a high level, and we said, all right, we have to talk about this. We have to lead with this because everybody's thinking it. And we've been winning listing appointments by saying, hey, we're here to make this the best real estate experience you've ever had. And we realize these are odd times, and we want to make you comfortable. Here's our plan. And we would give it to them and then say, how does that meet your expectations? Is there anything else that you think we could be doing better? And having those kind of conversations have been helping us win listings over and over and over. I converted a deal this morning at 9 o'clock. I had a call with a lady that's a buy and a sell. And she said, Andy, we really would like to sell. We don't have to sell, but we're just paralyzed by this COVID-19. And I was like, I understand completely. Let me tell you what we're doing and see if that kind of makes you feel a little bit better. And she was like, oh my God, yeah, let's go. Right. So they're listing in 2 weeks and buying.
I'll ask you this from a challenge perspective. Like you talked a lot about the who's, and you talked about the way that you're creating community for everybody, which I think is awesome. From a challenge perspective, what have you changed based on COVID so that you can be more efficient, more effective, and bring more value to, say, clients?
To clients, so not on the market center side, but on the production side?
On the agent side.
So, the same thing, it's have the plan, increase communication, and share the win. So if you go to the Peters Company Facebook page, you'll actually see us sharing, statistics on what's going on in the market. You'll see us sharing, what's going on in our business. You'll see us doing things that we haven't normally done, such as we did a fireside chat. We're doing a poolside chat next week, I think, where we're just giving people an update on like, what does all this mean? Updating the database on how we've changed, how we've pivoted. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And making sure that you're giving the people options. We've still got some people that are going and wearing masks and going on listing appointments or buyer consults. We're willing to do that if the client is comfortable with that, but we're not leading with that, right? We're putting that decision in their hands, and we're making sure that safety is first over sales, which is something Gary's been talking a lot about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And I love, by the way, I just had one of the ahas that I had of something that you said. You said massive opportunities are on the other side of fear. And from an agent business standpoint, how do you see that showing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think we get stuck in neutral, or we get addicted to the job money, and we won't let go of the job, right? A business, I think we have confusion around what's a job and what's a business. You really don't have a business until you've given away all the jobs. Until then, you just got a job. So I think we get stuck in.
Everybody's repeat that last part.
So there's a big difference between a business and a job. you don't have a business until you've given away all the jobs. And so we get addicted to the job money, right? So we don't want to let go of it. And therefore we just get stuck in neutral, and we don't hire people, and perhaps we don't invest in ourselves the way we should, because we're just servicing business, and it's a rat race. Right. And so I'm always looking for ways that I can give away something else, so that I can, as you keep leveling up, it comes with more responsibility, but it also comes with more joy. If you're smart about it, you should continue to do more and more of what you love doing, and giving away the things that you don't want to do, right? So if you're doing something that doesn't make you happy, you're actually robbing someone else of the opportunity to do something that makes them happy, right? So that's just the way I look at it. Like, the higher we go and the more we achieve, you know, I'm looking at, am I happy? Is this giving me what I want? Is there a segment of my job that I want to get rid of? I actually don't want to be an OP forever. I'm grooming leaders that will hopefully step in and take over, be a general manager, you know, to run the market centers. Right. I guess I'd still be OP, but I'm not attached to that. Yeah. I don't need to be the OP. Right. That's right.
That's a good answer to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
You don't have a business until you've given away all the jobs. That's a fascinating statement.
That's Gary. That's totally Gary. That's
take credit.
Take credit. That's good.
Man, I'm a study of everybody else.
Right.
As are we all.
Yeah, you've told us about your R&D department, so we know what that looks like.
Yes.
All right, man. Well, hey, if we've got, you know, a handful of agents on here that could send you a referral, what's the best way to get in touch with you or find you if we've got a referral for the Atlanta area?
Yeah, so last year we did almost 50 out-of-state referrals for agents, and most of those came through Facebook. So you can find me, Andy Peters, on Facebook. You can follow the Peters Company. You can look at Peters Co. 36 Touch Mastermind is a page that Leslie created that shares a lot of our ideas and kind of creates some masterminding on Facebook. We also have an agent newsletter that we send out every month that kind of dissects an event or some sort of an activity that we do on our team and just shares it with the country. And we share a schedule of training stuff that we're doing around the country. And you can get to that, thepeterscompany.com/connect. Okay. And there's a form fill there.
Okay.